Hello and welcome to Bleed Advertising. I'm Ryan White and I'm joined by Jacques Moody. How you doing, Jacques?
All right, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for asking. Of course,
Sweet, man.
Jacques Moodley, permanent art director, and myself, Ryan White, freelance graphic designer. And we both just so happen to be graduates of the AAA School of Advertising
And Pisces.
and Pisces and Scorpio combined.
Oh yeah, it's like a swordfish.
Yeah, both water signs, bro.
That's it, bro.
Okay. So we actually have a topic of conversation for today's show, and it's from Agency Insider. You sent it to me. Agency Insider, genuine question from someone who did less than a year in agency and rapidly jumped client side early in my career. Why do agency people stay? What is the long-term traction? The beer fridge was cool in my early 20s, but as soon as that wore off, I was a tired, broken biz model. Okay, yeah. So that's basically the
Great
question.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been asking myself this question for years, even before COVID, and then after COVID, when there was no more beer fridge or Friday night bar, and the creative energy, whatever. I think it was very clear that like people started dropping out agencies very quickly because they could work for other companies remotely even, and the like allure of whatever creative agencies offer, which is this like creative energy and the like free beers every Friday, doesn't seem that alluring anymore. It's Yeah, so I don't know. What I think does keep people still at the agencies, but this is my personal opinion, I might be wrong, is we also become so specialized in like what we're doing that it's hard to almost see outside of like the norm of what we've experienced, especially when like you and I like a decade plus down the line. It's hard to transition into like, I guess, a corporate job, even though these, agencies are effectively still corporate. It's hard to like get into like a, normal corporate position just because you've been doing like this one thing for so long. It's like all it's hard to like pivot, I guess is the term, right? What's your opinion, man?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's kind of like this guy knows how to work late and eat pizza. So I think it is that. I think we've been hardened and we kind of just know we slip into the whole vibe of things. We're just like this guy knows how to, especially for me as a freelancer,
Yeah.
having to walk into different kind of circumstances as a freelancer. Sometimes I'm hired as a motion designer. Sometimes I'm hired as a creative director. So I kind of have to fit all these different molds. And I think maybe it's a bit different on corporate side. They expect you to do one thing, but I get what you're saying. You become like multifaceted and you also know that agency vibe, like the expectations of working late, with no compensation, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Is that kind of what you're saying there?
Yeah, I think it's not like you get used to working late and it's like you it's like I can't think of a better example, but it's like being in like an abusive relationship. It's not like you I think you get into a point where you're so used to like being treated like crap that you're like, okay, this is all that I'm worth. Like this is how people are gonna treat me. And no matter who I'm with, they're gonna treat me like this. And it's such a like weird, like Stockholm syndrome type indoctrination thing that I think like some people do see that like this is the only way for them and this is how it should be. And my can I tell my biggest thing about like agencies, man, is and I know I work in an agency, whatever, but it's the inability to like promote, right? It's always like there's three rungs on the ladder, and you either like a senior, whatever you are, and then eventually a creative director, and then eventually ECD. That's it. There's like three positions really for you. Whereas in a corporate, you can like move departments and you can like lead a team, and then you move from this team to the next team, and that's like a promotion in itself. And then like you learn new skills and you take on like more challenges and they promote you. And then if you fulfill your KPAs or KPIs, it's almost like uh, there's a real path to like career enhancement or success or whatever. Whereas like an agency, it's like it's really a gamble. You could be promoted to CD if you win these awards or whatever, or I don't know. It's really like that's my biggest thing, man. Like it's becoming less and less alluring just because you know that if you went into a more corporate environment, you can definitely just you can move up quicker. And there is like steps in the or rungs in the ladder that you can like ascend. And that's not usually the case with, agencies, but yeah. I know it sounds like we're just shitting on agencies today, but it is like we're also not here to like sugarcoat anything, The
I think
Kool-Aid is we are sans
yeah.
Kool-Aid.
No, I think like you work in agency, I work in agency, and it's not that we're shitting on agency. We're just looking at the pros and cons, So like obviously
Yeah.
you've worked in corporate, I've worked in corporate as well. And yeah, it's not as cool, it's not as fun. Yeah, so the thing is it's we both worked in corporate, so we know the downsides of working in corporate. Like sometimes the environment's a bit sterile. They
Yeah.
expect you to do like more admin than we do. So we complain
Yeah.
about timesheets, but when you go there, they've probably got way more, you know, hoops that you have to jump through just so that you can do your job. And I think it is a bit more rigid and structured. So I think it's a grass is greener kind of situation. But yeah, I think what keeps people at agency for me, I think it is there is still a bit of that glamour, the awards, the agency parties,
But
yeah,
all of that's dead now. So
the,
like
the, the
I know what
foosball
you're saying.
table,
Huh?
the foosball table.
Yeah, I was watching an old video I made years ago when I was at YNR, and we had to make like a video to promote the agency and like how fun it was for like prospective interns or yeah, I guess interns. And I was looking at the video and it was so funny because like everything you mentioned now, the foosball table, the crazy parties, like that featured so predominantly in the video. And I was like, I could never make that video now. That video, like to like attract like interns now would be so difficult. Like you, and I think it's again a generational thing where these guys are so like they know what's right and what's like beneficial for them. You can't like bullshit them. You can't be like, oh, great vibe and like foosball tables and party all night and look at these crazy shots we take at Lurie's or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't give a fuck about that, man. They was like, okay, what's the benefit for me? Can I promote my business while doing this? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a very different like place to play. I would love to see what agencies look like in the future. I think like 10 years from now, and I hope there is a transition or there is a shift because I feel like the model's outdated and like, people are, I wouldn't say selfish, but I think people like know what's best for them now. And people aren't
Yeah.
like just taking shit. Like,
I think that's a difficult one because I think you only go as far as you're driven to. So if
mm,
you if you're content with earning the 13K as a call center guy, you're going to stay there. If you're driven, that's kind of different. That's you're moving more into an entrepreneurial kind of thing. So you're like, okay, cool. I'm now pool chemical, production manager or distribution manager. I'm going to open up my own thing,
yeah,
So yeah, so it just depends how driven you are. So I think you can make it. And if you're a creative person, what better thing to have behind you than a sustainable company so you can focus on your creative outlets and then you can become like a graffiti artist or a tattoo artist because you've got a self-running company. So I think the creative spirit's always going to you're always going to follow it if you naturally creative, hopefully. But yeah,
yeah. I think
yeah,
it's interesting, man. I do think like you're right, like the creativity, if it's inside of you, it has to come out some way. But I know a lot of people who are in corporate jobs. We keep using the term corporate, but you know what I mean, like not agency, and they do like paintings on the weekend and it's like
mm,
beautiful paintings and stuff. But it's not like the thing about our creativity. And funny enough, Cole was asking me this, my kid, right? He was asking me, I was making a beat the other day, I think you and I discussed this before. And I was making a beat the other day, and Cole asked me, why do I like making beats so much? And I said to Cole, I can make this beat and there's no feedback. There's nobody telling me they don't like that snare, or they don't like this kick drum, or maybe I should like chop the sample differently. There's no, it's pure unadulterated creativity. I can just do it. And there's no like reviews about it. There's no deadlines. There's nobody like hounding me about this thing. And it's like the purest form for me of like creating something and like putting something of myself into the world. And there's no like filters or anything that it has to go through. It's just, it's what I can make and I put it out there. And to explain the concept in 8-year-olds is like a weird thing, but I was just like, it made so much sense to me in that moment. I was like, oh, okay, that's really that's why I enjoy this. It's because there's nobody having their input in this thing. And I know that sounds weird because I think in our industry, we're so used to like review after review, then clients feedback, then review again with our CD or whatever, and then clients feedback again. And then like the thing you made initially doesn't look like the thing at the end. And I was just like, yeah, man, like I think if I was in a corporate job and I had to do all this other nonsense, I'd still make beats. I'd still find this like outlet to do things. And I'd probably be more like enthusiastic about it, because putting yourself into your work day to day and putting yourself into a creative project is still like, it still takes a lot out of you. But I think if you're doing something that's like a little bit more stationary and stagnant and not so creative, you probably put a lot more effort into like a creative outlet, just because it's the one time you get to like fully just immerse yourself into this project. But yeah, it's a very complicated thing, but it was just interesting to explain to this kid, like, here's why this creative thing makes me happy, because it's me and I get to put myself in it.
Yeah, I think on that, you might also have more time in like a corporate job.
Yeah.
To follow those things. And I think, I mean, on that, do you think back in the day when we were at college, or maybe the generation before ours, didn't have as many filters to their approval system? It was like you worked with the CD, it was like, I love that idea, make these changes and let's craft it. You got into the crafting phase more, you know. You came with a simple idea. This is a mouse and it does this thing, and it's like, that's cool, but what happens if it wasn't a mouse or whatever? How can we make this thing bigger? And then it felt like, wow, this is a campaign. This is cool. How does it look on a billboard? You know, and then it's like, okay, it just seemed like you were creating this thing, as opposed to, this is not going to appeal to this demographic, let's change it. Or you know,
I think I know what you're gonna get to. I think the point is like, now there's so many cooks, and there's the strategy cooks, and then there's the client cooks, and everybody has their like the ingredients they want to add, man. And I'm not saying that, you also can't be in an industry where you're here to serve client and then not take their feedback into it. But it feels like, I think the power dynamic has shifted so much so that, like, I don't know if it's a different agency. I mean, I think if you're at a Droga or whatever and you go, this is the idea client, and they go, okay, shit, it's Droga, we're going to listen to him. But I think if you're like an agency who doesn't have, and maybe that's why the awards are important for agencies. And I always like never understood it, right? But like, maybe awards are important for agencies because then they have something to prove to clients that they should be trusted, right? Because here's an accolade that we received, which means we're good. That's why when people get nominated for an Oscar or a Grammy, that's the thing that's stuck with them for the rest of their lives. Like, it's always going to be Oscar nominated, whoever, or Grammy nominated artist, blah, 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 join his masterclass. Do you know what I mean? It's always going to give you credibility. And I think that we're like, agencies are kind of insecure in that sense, where it's like, we gonna give our creative opinion and tell client what we think and what the idea should be, but if they don't like it, we can always go back and change it. Okay, you know what I mean? And it's such a weird thing. And I think, like, I hate to get on the awards train again, but like, we're insecure, creatives are insecure by nature, because we're putting we're sensitive creatures. We have to be sensitive because we have to like be receptive to all these external elements that we infuse into our work, and that makes us insecure. And it's so hard to like, and then if the creators are insecure, the agency is insecure, and the clients are like the confident person telling the like geeky nerd or whatever, like that's not cool, don't do that, like whatever. It's like I don't know, man, it's a weird like power dynamic, and I don't know if it's like maybe I don't know, maybe I'm going off at a tangent here, but it just seems like yeah, we're so like not prescribed, but like we're insecure, and we have to go and with our offerings and be our fruit and go like, here's this thing. What do you think? And like, no, I don't like it. Okay, fuck this. I'll get you more fruit. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's funny, man.
No, completely. Like I get that. I get that. It's kind of like you want to. You're creating something not to please yourself, but to please the client and also your creative director and stuff. But you also want to put a bit of yourself in, and that's going to make you self-aware and also like, who do I appease here? Do I appease myself or make sure my box is checked, or is it a case of like, do I get this over the line with client and creative director? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And that's going to bring a bit of insecurity because you're going to be second guessing and there's a lot going on there. Whereas, like you say, if you are a droga 5, you can just be like, this is what we've done and we're super behind it. If you don't like it, we're going to take it somewhere else.
Yeah. And I think that's like the madman sort of like way of looking at things. And I don't know. And maybe culturally, and look, man, I haven't worked in agencies. I would love to hear from people who worked in agencies overseas. Maybe it's different there. Maybe like there's complete and utter trust between clients and agencies. But I think in South Africa, at least, and that's the only place I've only worked in this country, right? So I can't speak from other perspectives. But I think in South Africa, we're like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but we are like a little bit like just nicer. We're just like nicer, and we like take feedback. We're like, okay, we can make this work. Let's figure this out. And maybe it's just a cultural thing. Maybe I'm wrong about saying like we're as creators we're insecure. I do think we are insecure as creators, but I think maybe culturally, like I don't know, agencies in Germany go like, this is our idea and this is it, and we're not changing it. So you take this VW or you take this RD and whatever. Like this is the campaign. But yeah, man, I can only speak from my perspective, and from my perspective, it feels like we're not as sure about things as maybe we used to be.
Okay. Well, going back to the agency insider question, what makes people stay, right? So, you were talking about trying to make an agency look appealing to people, and one of the ways agencies do it is they kind of give you the promise of awards or like the opportunity to win cool awards if it's a big agency. They have cool offices and stuff. But like you say, people have been working remotely now. And you were like, what are agencies going to look like in the future? And for me, agencies in the future are going to look just like this. It's literally a phone or a laptop. That's what it's going to be. And like you say, with the new generation coming in, they come in, they see, okay, cool, you guys have a ball pit, you've got like freaking foosball tables or whatever these things are, that these cool wacky agencies, they're like, I'm not into that, or I can do that on the weekend, or like whatever. Like for them, they are on Instagram, whatever they've got going on their feed or whatever social platform they're on is way more interesting than any other agency, layout and whatever. Their bedrooms probably look better than most agencies.
Yeah,
so
sure.
and also like everyone's buried in their phone, so that's where the tension is. That's where the cool shit is. It's very difficult to impress someone who has like, I don't know, 200,000 followers on Instagram, and they're getting DMs from like, these celebrities and stuff. Then it's like, why are they going to be concerned with the foosball table in the bar? do you know what I mean?
I think it's a lot like the music industry, right? So the music industry was always like you had to get signed to a label, and they would handle your distribution, and they'd handle like they'd promote you, so they'd handle the marketing, the packaging, the design of your album cover, all that stuff. And that's why you needed a label, right? Because they would put you in front of like the world, they put you in front of people's pupils. And then once social media kicked off, you didn't need a label, right? You could start a Bandcamp page. You could just put your stuff on Spotify. And if your song starts like garnering attention on TikTok, you don't need a label. In fact, the way to get a record deal now was to like make a song, get your like core fan base, get popping on like social media, and then a label would come after you. It's not the other way around, but you approach a label like, here's my demo. You watch that Kanye West documentary, and he's like in the offices at Rockefeller, and he's going to like every receptionist and every like A&R person in the building, and he like plays Through the Wire. He plays I don't know, one of his songs, and he's like marketing himself, and fuck, he was driven, man. And like I was like, if Kanye West started his career now, it'd be completely different. Like, I mean, and maybe he wouldn't have this massive chip on his shoulder, because you can see it in the documentary. It's like he has to prove himself because he's a producer, but he has to prove himself as a rapper, and he has to go to Dame, and he has to go to Scarface, and he has to go to Ludacris, and he has to go, look, I can rap too. I can rap too. Now, and I think maybe Kanye did shape like the way things are, but now you don't have to prove yourself to all these like gatekeepers. If you got a following and you got like a song that's popping on social media, fuck a label, man. Like you don't need that. You can do it on your own.
Yeah.
And if you are creative and you creating content, and like a brand sees that, like I hate to use like Casey Neistat or whatever, but as an example, but like how many times in pictures when Casey was like popping, did like agencies reference Casey? They were like, oh, we should get Casey to do something like this for us or whatever. It's not like he was a creative in an agency, but then brands started like seeing what Casey was doing. They were like, fuck, let's fuck with Casey, cut the middleman out, and just go straight to like the creator. And that's it, man. Like that model of like agency and label, it's disintegrating a little bit, and you can go straight to the thing. And imagine the overheads and all the stuff you have to cut out. If the creative wants to give you, like, I mean, even when we do like freelance work on the side, like an agency doing a CI for a brand is like what, hundreds of thousands. You and me doing a CI for a brand is like 10, if that, you know. Somebody you know how many times I've asked people like, what's their budget? And they'll go like, I only got 5. And you go, fuck it, I'll do it for 5. You should be charging way more for this, but you're like, you could use that 5K, and that person isn't willing to really like pay more than that. So, and everyone wins. You're still getting your 5K, and that guy's still getting his CI for 5K. Do you know what I'm saying?
So he's getting a CI, plus he's getting the return on that, the value on that. So if your CI comes in at 5K, but it brings in 50K's worth of business, you're not seeing any of that 50K. That's the issue, So you got to be like, if this campaign is successful and you get, 50K through the door in the next however many months, that's what it's worth to you, and that's what it should be worth to me. At least a percentage of that.
But I mean, having said that, like, that like in agencies, we've worked on campaigns. And the problem is sometimes when you're too close, like client service sometimes snitches, man. And sometimes when you're too close to a campaign and client service tells you it performed this well, and because of its performance, this is what happened to the marketing manager. Like I worked on a campaign for, I'll name drop. It was Dettol. It was like a random campaign for like a soap. I remember that the campaign had done so well that the marketing manager came to us, because it was myself and TJ, we were the creatives on the job. And he's like, guys, this thing performed so well in the market that I got promoted to like, I don't know, marketing head in London. I ever tell you a story? He got like his kids were like, went to private school, paid for by Record Benkiser and whatever, just because the campaign that he happened to work on, he got handed this campaign. It was like, he put the brief in, TJ and I wrote the script, shot the ad. It did phenomenally well. This man's career took the fuck off. And we were like, oh, well done, man. That's great for you. And I was just like, we didn't get, promotions or anything, like a pat on the back. It was just like, we did our creative solve, made this guy's career.
Yeah.
And I think even like with agencies, like we know that like if campaigns do really well and like it increases market share for whatever, the agencies get bonuses. They
Yeah.
never trickle down to like the creatives or whatever. But like that the agency, I've heard of like some bonuses that agencies have gotten. And I'm just like, wow, and I'm struggling. Yeah, I'm trying to get my 13K, bro. So
Maybe that's like a time old thing, like typically with artists, and I use the term artist loosely as far as we're concerned, working in advertising and whatever. But yeah, back in the day, artists only really became famous after they died and people discovered their work. Do you know what I
some
mean?
when I'm gone, someone's gonna look at like one of those record Ben Keys ads and go like, oh my God, Jacques was a genius. Like
Or
that's
this
so bad.
podcast, someone's going to stumble on it.
So ahead of his time, man. That guy, yeah, he was a visionary,
Yeah. In the future, they'd have to switch on the internet because it's such a dated thing. Hey guys, look, I've got the internet here. Let's check it out.
Yeah. Oh, let's go through the tapes. What happened in 2022? I was like, oh, okay, coronavirus, bleed advertising. What is this? And then whoa, then we blow up like 30 years from now, bro. We'll be old men or like passed away because of all
Yeah.
the caffeine.
Damn. Okay. So I think we concluded that quite nicely, the whole why do people stay thing. So just in summary, people stay out of Stockholm syndrome, or like this is an abusive relationship thing, or they genuinely feel hope that they can win an award and progress their career, which I think is completely valid. Um, and do you think maybe just some people like it? Because we've spoken about it before. There's just admin. They are just stuck in that mode. If you go for drinks with them during lunch or
What they
whatever,
talk about.
they're like, oh, dude, this mug could be an ad. If I had to shoot this mug, I would light it like this. They just never get out that mode. And they're not into film either. They're like, oh, film is cool and whatever. And I love, Tarantino and whatever. But they just love making ads. They love being, they also never want to be a creative director. They either just want to be a copywriter or an art director. So maybe just some people like it.
I think so, man. I think you do get those ad people. I'm not saying I think the ad people, the guys we're talking about, the guys who like look at everything like an ad. I don't think those guys don't want to be promoted and don't want to be like creative directors and stuff. In fact, creative director was always this thing that like people want to be. I wanted to be a creative director for a very long time because it had this like, yeah, this glamour or this tinsel attached to it. And then like, we discussed many times that it's kind of lost that for us. It becomes just a very management of people. And it's like that sounds like the opposite of what I wanted to do, because I remember when I started in the industry and the creative directors I met, they were like crazy guys who worked on like they did this massive, impressive illustrations for like Doom that won everything it can. And you're like, man, this guy, he didn't even use like an illustrator. He just illustrated himself because the illustrator wasn't giving him what he wanted. And I was like, wow, I want to be like this guy. And then you get a bit older and you get a bit wiser and a bit jaded and you go, I don't want to be these people. I don't want to be an ad man. I don't want to be this person that, and I mean, I love people like that. We have friends like that who are just like, they so like advertising guys. They're like, all they think about, they eat, sleep, breathe advertising. They wake up and like ads. That's it. And like, it's ironic. We're not those guys, but we like to talk about advertising, but we aren't those people. We have so like other interests and stuff, and other things are important to us. And I think it's important. We've always said that like having outside interests helps you in advertising because like I brought my music into ads all like lots. Like you brought like a lot of the stuff you're interested in, like your illustration stuff, into your ads. Like it's you put yourself into it, and I think it's important to have these outside interests. But these guys who are like advertising before, bro, they really succeed because I think once you dedicate yourself to a thing, like an idea, as it were, I think it infects people. It like has this like domino effect, right? And I think maybe that's why people stay in agencies. It's not what the agency offers, because we know that agencies don't offer that much in terms of like promotion, money, or any of that stuff. I think there's this culture thing that like you're around the cool people. It's like maybe like, it's like, I don't know, when you get invited to the cool table, like you're the nerd finally gets to hang out with the cool peeps. And there's cool peeps and they talk about cool things and they reference all these movies and, oh, did you see Moonwalker or whatever? Like, they reference all these cool things. And you're around those people. Maybe that's it. It's like, what did Thor say in Ragnarok?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. Where does Thor come from? What's his planet?
Norway.
No, man. Yeah, I mean, he does know it, but like, whatever his like planet was, man. He said like, it wasn't a place, it was a people.
Yeah.
I think that's it for the agency. It's like the agencies are only as cool or as hip or as like rewarding to be at because of who's there.
Okay.
And when you start not having like great people there, and there's nobody there that really inspires you want to work with or you want to be around,
Yeah.
starts to lose it. And if those cool people, those ad men or whoever and women leave, and they aren't there anymore,
Yeah.
you're not there anymore. What are you there
Yeah.
for?
Look, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like the thing is, I was into it when I was studying, and I did have my ad heroes where I was like, wow, that guy came up with such cool campaigns. You mentioned the Doom campaign. I was also like equally impressed with it, and that's what got me into the whole vibe where it's like, that's cool. We're taking something where we all need products. Now we're making it fun. So instead of just buying a can of Doom so that you can, it's an insect repellent where you can just be like, cool, I'm going to kill some insects or repel them, whatever. It became this thing of like, now there's a story attached to it.
Yeah.
Insects, you personify insects being scared of
Yeah.
Doom. So, it's just cool. There's a can of Doom under the bed or hiding in the closet. Then that's
Yeah.
fun. It's like people are going to buy products anyway. Let's make it fun. And that's why I got into advertising, because I was like, this is cool. But for me nowadays, and I kind of let go of like the whole allure of like agency and awards and stuff. Like a long time ago, and I kind of just adapted, and I was like, freelance kind of suits me because I can pursue other things. But
Yeah.
but the thing is, for me it's very difficult to get excited about the measure that they use against campaigns and ads now. Like whereas before it was just like, wow, that's fun, that's like a delightful idea. There's joy in that. It's just, I never thought of it that way, and it's kind of funny to personify an ant or a mosquito.
Yeah.
And that was the measure. But the measure nowadays, if you look at any case study video in the last, 5 years, every single thing, it's like, we reached over 10,000 clicks within the first 5 minutes. How do you get excited about that?
Yeah,
And
the creative effectiveness, right? It's like,
yeah,
what effect does it have? Like,
now
surely the effect should be emotional.
yes.
How did it make you feel? This was cool. I liked it. It was a fun thing. Yeah.
Yeah, you watch any, and it's like even the whole thing of using case study videos, that was just like, now I need a video to prove how effective this thing was. Whereas before you just showed the work mounted 50 by 50 by 80, and then that was all you had to do. And then people
Yeah.
were like either yay or nay. But now
Yeah.
you need a whole case study video to say,
Yeah.
you
Your
know,
print campaign needs a case study video, which is
yeah,
wild.
yeah, yeah,
It's like we put it in magazines. It reached
yeah,
thousands of
yeah,
subscribers to National Geographic.
yeah. My
It's
best,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like we're all magicians, right? And then one of the magicians, remember the Masked Magician? He kind of like revealed how these tricks were done, and he fucked up the industry for magicians, because now we all know that when David Copperfield made that plane disappear, all we did was like rig the stage so that you've seen a different side of it. The plane's still there, but the camera trickery made it like disappear. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like, ooh, we love the magic that these people create, but how did they do it? And we all had to show our tricks. And that's maybe fucked it up a bit.
Yeah, dude. So, yeah. That, so for me, it's very difficult to get excited, and with those case study videos, like my favorite part about them is once they've proved their point, there's always a section in these case study videos. Not only that, and furthermore, we also managed to, I'm like, you've proved your point. It's enough now. It's like, this was a very successful campaign. A lot of people clicked on it. It's great. Not to
Insecurity,
mention
bro.
half of those clicks were bought, that's the other thing.
But again, it's like us having to prove ourselves, right? It's like we're insecure. Please give us awards because here's this thing that we made and look what it did. Please.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the thing is, so like going back to that Doom campaign as an example, we all know that thing flighted at odd hours, the radio spots, or they found some publication in, somewhere in Africa and it somehow qualified for the awards and whatever, and it didn't really run, right? Like as far as I know, those were the rumors. But anyways, it's like we didn't care how many people it reached. It was a cool idea. And we don't care if it sold more cans of Doom. Do you know what I'm saying? Like we didn't really measure the success based on that because we knew there was a separate campaign that was dealing with moving product. And our campaign was just to have fun and make this brand seem cool. I don't know.
But it made me want to do this job.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I wanted to make something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool. I had an emotional reaction to it. I thought that was cool. It was funny.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make stuff that somebody would react to as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And as far as like, just to round up the ad man personal, like coolness factor element, for me, that also lost its shine early on when I think I went to, and I think I've told the story before, but when I went to Lurie's, and I don't know, like I saw a lot of creative directors there, and I was just like, I don't want to be this guy, 55, second marriage, still partying with the young interns, and that was a personal thing. Like I said, maybe ad men, they don't want to have kids, ad men or women. They don't want to have kids. They're just dedicated to their job and they want to party when they're 50 or 60 years old. They want to go to all these award shows. They want to go to Cannes and eat oysters and drink champagne. Like that's up to them. So yeah, just to round up the agency insider question, maybe just some people like advertising. That's the other thing.
Look, man, if it wasn't for advertising, we wouldn't have jobs or a podcast. So it has its benefits.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, and I always say this, and I always like think about what if, right? Like, what if I went down a different path, and what if I did something different with my life, and what if I was an accountant and drove a BMW, and I think the friendships and like the people I've met, and like it's the people, it's like. And the things I've done, there's things I've done that I couldn't have done outside of this industry. And there's people I've met that I couldn't have met outside of this industry. And there's like friendships and dude, and like it also informed who I was, or it became me. I'm like a person and I'm like a dad and I'm like a rapper or producer, but I'm also like an advertising person. And there's something that goes along with it. They're like, oh, you're an advertising guy, which means you know a lot about a lot of stuff. And I think when we play 30 seconds, we go, how do we know all the stuff? Are we just like sponges that absorb everything because we have to? And it like, I sometimes don't know how I know half the shit I know, but I'm like, I probably once had to research this thing for an advert.
Yeah.
And I knew it because of that. And it shaped who I am. So I can say what I want and I can be miserable about where my life ended up or the industry or whatever, but it's also done a lot of good things. And, I'm grateful.
I completely agree with that. I'm also grateful that I can still work in the industry. And I know it comes across as we should talk in the industry. For me, it isn't. It's basically just looking at the pros and cons and looking at it as something that, is it something that works for us? And for me, I found a way that it works for me. There's still elements of it that I do enjoy, but I completely agree with you in terms of it being like a training ground almost, where you like earn your stripes, and then thereafter you're equipped with certain skills like presenting, like
putting a deck together is like
putting ideas together, exactly, and also selling. you know, promoting, marketing, like all these things help people create their own businesses. You know, if you link up with someone who's good at finance and getting funds and that kind of thing, then you can start a business. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there you go. You can design the logo. You can come up with concepts to promote it. You know how to do all the targeting on Facebook and all that shit. So I think it is a good training ground. And once you reach a certain limit, you either stay in and you go and be creative director, or you start your own thing. And the other thing is you get to meet, you know, like-minded people, which is cool. You make good connections, friends, and yeah, I think that's the coolest thing for me about advertising. Whereas if you, I don't know, if you get into other creative industries, so say for instance like dancing or ballet, like maybe that's very specific. So you mentioned something else about the fact that it's so broad, you know, you're getting lots of different people. Some people come from like a music background, some people come from like a fine art background, but now they're all in one room and they're approaching things from different angles, you know. Whereas if you're just a graffiti artist or a tattoo artist, like it tends to be quite, not necessarily limiting, but specific, you know. So I like advertising. It becomes like this melting pot for lots of like-minded people. They make connections and they start cool things like the Bleed Advertising podcast.
Yeah. Shameless plug. No, I hear you, man, and I think yeah, it's a good note to end off on, because I think as much as it's taken from us, it's given us a lot, this industry. And yeah.
Thanks for listening or watching, whatever you're doing. And yeah, we'll see you.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe. See you next time.
Cheers.